alien spacecraft did not crash in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
You know flat earthers, I guarantee it. But you don't know who they are because they're afraid of talking about it.
This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system.
Hello and welcome to the 30th annual Subliminal Deception Podcast, your weekly dose of conspiracy theory bullshit. My name is Cody and I'm joined by my pal Phil. How are you doing?
Doing good, buddy. How about yourself?
Well, as you can probably hear, I'm a bit sniffly still. Now, let's let the audience know that no, I have not been sick for a week straight. This week's been a little chaotic for recording. I'm sure if there's fans of Bumblebutt Podcast, you probably noticed we've had some recording issues, so we're just recording about 2 days after we recorded last week's episode, so if I sound sick, that's why. I'm not, dying of some weird disease, so, but yeah, I'm doing better. I'm feeling better today. I got a light sweat going on, and hopefully it'll go away by the end of this recording. So, Phil, anything exciting going on in Arizona?
No, not really. Just fucking trudging through life like always. Yeah, I listened to the latest episode of the Bumblebutt podcast with Adam and his brother. It was pretty good. It did sound like they recorded it in the back of a covered wagon. But
that makes a good point. What if you had a traveling podcast that you did out of a covered wagon? Like you just strolled around in a horse carriage with a covered wagon and just stopped in small towns and then did interviews in the back. You think people would go for that?
I don't know. I mean,
you
could probably do it in the back of a van.
You relive the Oregon Trail. That's your ultimate goal. You want to relive. You're doing real life Oregon Trail.
That would be a good way to catch typhoid and die. I mean,
you're gonna have to borrow about 8 kids and see how many make it by the time you get there. So
yeah, I'm a little surprised that anyone in America at that time made it past Wyoming, considering all the people on the Oregon Trail that must have died from typhoid, if that game is correct.
Oh God, you can only imagine. You step on a rock and cut your foot, and you can fucking die of sepsis. Everything will kill you. So something I wanted to tell you and the audience. I looked it up. I think it was yesterday night because I was curious. We like to talk about college football and whatever. And did you see what rank the Minnesota Golden Gophers are?
Do they break top 25?
No, they're literally 25. So
they put them right on the border.
Yeah, they're right at 25. Yeah, I saw they must have really moved the rankings because Clemson is 6 now or whatever, right?
Yeah, they're still good. I mean, they could still beat most every team in the country. It's just people are starting to realize maybe this year they're not as good as they were in previous years.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those rankings are kind of bullshit anyway. So.
Do you think the long-haired guy, I can't think of his fucking name, do you think he's going to be an NFL caliber quarterback?
No, not because he's not good. People who are dudes who are quarterbacks on those really good college teams don't actually make it very well in the NFL because they didn't have to face a lot of adversity. They had a stout line. They always had really good wide receivers to throw it to. And they usually had an awesome running back to take the heat off of them.
Right.
So,
right.
But dude, I bet he is fucking slaying at college right now.
You think the chicks love him?
Oh, I bet. Dude, he was doing the little walk into the field and all these chicks were just going fucking crazy for him. I bet that dude doesn't even get any sleep.
What if he was actually the youngest Hanson kid?
That could be also.
They did a Katy Perry, JonBenet thing where the youngest Hanson kid is now the quarterback for Clemson because he has the fucking haircut like they do, and he kind of looks like one of them. he looks like he could definitely be a member of the band Hanson.
That is true.
I remember
It's the next conspiracy.
I remember I was talking with someone, and they were like talking about how Hanson apparently still does music, or they just stopped not that long ago. And like they were talking about how their music after MMMBop changed a lot, obviously, but it was still good. I don't really believe them, but apparently they were big fans of post MMMBop Hanson. So I guess everyone should check that out and see if they're a liar or not. I'm not listening to it.
You may have met the only post MMMBop Hanson fans on Earth. So.
That reminds me of that Family Guy episode where they're like, "Ooh, if you could sleep with anybody, who would it be?" And Quagmire's like, "Taylor Hanson." Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then I think Joe. This was another coincidence that Joe says Mariel Hemingway, and I never really knew who that was. And I literally just watched a movie starring her. And, I can see why they made fun of it. She's got like Frankenstein eyebrows. I don't know if it's, could that be Ernest's daughter? Or no, has he been dead for too long?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Actually know when he was born.
I have no fucking idea, but, I don't know. She's a pretty good actress though, I'll give her that.
Might be worth a Google.
So Phil, before we get started here, what's your confidence level with the old Hawkeyes this week?
Ooh, not good. So basically what I figure is they are probably either going to maybe win by like a point or just get completely blown out. My confidence is down to barely anything after that drumming we took last week.
Are they at home?
They are at home, and it's a night game. And we usually do pretty well night games at home. So
are they like Kirk Cousins? Like, he only plays good if it's not a nationally televised game. It has to be at 12 o'clock on a Sunday. Any other time, something happens to him. He's like a reverse werewolf or something. Like, he only plays good at that one certain time and like no other time of the day.
It's like a mythical, like, good Kirk Cousins game. Like, no one ever sees it, but he did play good that day.
I follow him on Instagram, and one day he took a picture of like the Minnesota sunrise, and then he put a huge Bible quote on there, and I'm just like, come on, dude. That is not, you can keep that to yourself. That's not necessary, sir. But
you're making me not want to follow you right now.
Yeah, I just quickly blocked him and unfollowed him. No. I know the NFL pushes Christianity, I think. Well, all football players, right? Like, they really push, like, believing in God and all of that on them.
It seems like it. I would really like to see an atheist football player.
It seems
everyone's
like they don't
sitting there and
it seems like they don't come around until like after they're really old or they retire.
Yeah, I would really like to see if they do one of those big group prayers in the locker room, and then they show another dude just in the corner, like playing on his phone, like not participating. That'd be great. He'd be my football hero.
Have you watched? You haven't watched Last Chance U, have you?
No, I haven't.
So the very first season, they're in Mississippi, and the coach will literally be screaming and yelling and just going crazy on these guys. Then all of a sudden he goes, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name." I'm like, what the fuck? He goes from screaming to "Our Father" in like a split second. It's so fucking weird.
Yeah, they got, I don't know. Some of those like Lifetime football dudes though are pretty weird. Like,
yeah, you could see that.
It's all the goddamn stress.
I don't doubt that one bit. But anyway, we should probably dive in here. So, Phil, it is your turn. So why don't you take the reins and lead us on a conspiracy roller coaster here?
Well, I got a pretty big one today. Now, have you ever heard about what may have happened to the Nazis fleeing from post World War II Europe?
I've heard that they decided to, well, a few different things. I've heard that they decided to go to South America.
Yeah, so I've got quite a few of them.
Okay.
It's coming in on the tail end. I'm just going to go bit of history right now.
Okay.
Germany, before World War One, was ascending through the ranks of the world powers, which was a recently formed country at the beginning of the 20th century, only established as a unified state in January 18th, 1871. They quickly, though, formed a large empire, trying to catch up to the other European empires, such as France and the United Kingdom. The new state of Germany was quickly becoming the leader among the military powers, already known for their military prowess from the Prussian military tradition, and also becoming leaders in many fields of science and also a cultural hub of Europe.
So who did they merged with Hungary, right? Is that what it was?
So basically what it was, Germany, before it became unified in 1871, was kind of made up of the remnants of the Holy Roman Empire. They fought each other and European powers up until unification. The strongest military power, as I said before, were the Prussian military, and actually a lot of the traditions in American military actually come from the Prussians.
Oh, really? Okay. Even their like attire, like how they dress.
At the time, it was like being like a uniformed military, like everyone dressing the same and carrying around flags, having changed into the guard ceremonies. A lot of it came from Prussian military.
I always remember listening to like is it Dan Carlin?
Yeah.
And he was talking about World War One, and I can't remember which country it was, but they like were wearing just goofy military outfits while they're like storming a battle.
Oh, it was France.
Was it France? And they have like frills and shit in their hat and all that.
Yeah, they were on the tail end of. So I'm about to talk about that a little bit.
Okay, perfect.
Not France as much, but yeah, they definitely looked ridiculous going into the first battles. So Germany was allied with Austro-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, forming the Central Powers during World War I, which began after Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in Sarajevo. Germany tried to capitalize on war between Serbia and Austro-Hungarian Empire. This was done by attacking Russia and France. And Dan Carlin did a really good episode, like a series of episodes on it. So
yeah, I was gonna say it's like what? Fuck, how many hours is that? That's like 30 hours, maybe somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's long. They're multi-hour episodes, and I think there's 5 of them. Destroyer of Worlds.
Well, granted, he does talk extremely slow too.
Yeah, and I think he puts them out like once every 5 months. So.
Yeah, he's very he's very inconsistent, but he's extremely popular.
Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine if we put out an episode every 5 months. Like we would have 5 listeners, and they'd all be family members. So, long story short, the war was more horrific than anyone could imagine, resulting in thousands of deaths per day on both sides, and leading to horrific trench warfare and chemical warfare. And now, the chlorine gas came from German science and was invented by Fritz Haber, who would become known as the father of chemical warfare. And this kind of came from that German tradition of innovative science that they pretty much took the mantle of during their time as an empire.
Okay. That just reminded me, I know it wasn't chlorine gas, but you remember when we're at work and at Mabes, and that one dummy fucking mixed bleach and whatever you're not supposed to mix it with and was cleaning the floor.
Ammonia.
Yeah, and it's like, Jesus, he could barely breathe in there. We had to go outside. It was like, what a fucking moron.
Yeah, I was cleaning the floors with it, and he was actually the first one to go down. He started throwing up. I think it's bad genes, probably. But all of a sudden, I became lightheaded and like had to get up, go outside, and smoke because it was bad.
He was the guy who kind of looked like Stone Cold Steve Austin, right?
Yeah, if Stone Cold had like chosen some other paths in life, that's what we always said.
Living in a trailer and fucking having an extreme beer gut, basically. I real quick here, I remember that one time he always brought a liter of Mountain Dew in, right? And you and I were like, what, 16, 17, and we unscrewed the lid of it, and I rubbed jalapeno on the rim of it, and then we put it back on there. And then we watched as he took a drink and he's like, "Ah, God, why is this so hot? Why is it so hot out here?" And he never had any idea who did it to him. He thought his Mountain Dew was like tainted or something.
Yeah, he had no teeth either. He had like his fucking tongue looked like it was in jail.
He was a character.
Yeah. So the war ended badly for Germany, who was forced to take full responsibility for the war and had to pay huge reparations, which they finally paid off in 2010.
Wow.
2010. They actually took some time off from paying it. The repayment was suspended by Hitler in 1933 and wasn't actually restarted until reunification in 1990. The total cost was about 269 billion Deutschmarks, or around 96,000 tons of gold.
Jesus. That's a lot of sauerkraut.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking... A lot of fucking Bavarian cream out there, shelling it out. So after the loss of the Great War, Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles, where the Allies forced the German government to pay those huge reparations that economically depressed Germany. This also forced Germany to have a very, very stunted military and no air force. A new party would be formed known as the German Workers' Party. Now, this party would later be renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party.
Right.
So after the Great Depression, the Nazi Party picked up steam in German politics, and Hitler became chancellor in 1933. This led to mass persecution of certain groups in Germany, especially the Jewish population. Now, this lasted until the end of World War II in Europe, when the US and Russia raced to end the war by meeting in Berlin. From 1933 to 1945, the Nazis benefited greatly from being in power, especially Nazi scientists and engineers, whose research and industry benefited them from forced human testing and slave labor. Now, after the war, many Nazis were tried and executed at Nuremberg. Now, here's kind of where the conspiracies start, which is right after the war and the time leading up to war.
Okay.
And two of which have been proven true. I have some fun ones like afterward.
Okay.
So you've obviously heard of Operation Paperclip,
Yep.
correct?
Yep, we have.
So as the Russians and the Americans were racing towards Berlin, they began gobbling up important Nazi research, but more importantly, Nazi scientists, many of which were not tried and sentenced as they rightfully should have been for those crimes against humanities that they committed. There's some pretty famous examples of Nazi scientists like coming to America. Werner von Braun is probably the most famous. He was actually head of the NASA during the moon missions.
If you believe that actually happened.
Yeah, if you believe that we went to the moon. So.
He might just be famous for being a really good, cinematographer?
Yeah. He's actually just a fucking director of movies.
What if that's what he actually was when he was a Nazi, is he ran a movie theater? Like that was his only job, and they brought him over there to film the moon landing, but he tells everybody he's a scientist.
They actually did have a pretty big industry of Nazi propaganda movies. So
I feel like I've seen a few of them back when History Channel was basically Nazi Channel.
Yeah, World War II Nazis and fucking Armageddon. That's all it was.
Bring back the aliens. I like the aliens one. That little when they wouldn't quit playing alien stuff.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, that's all it is right now. It's
Is
that and that fucking what's that island that they're trying to find the buried treasure?
Oh, Oak Island, right?
Oak Island.
Yeah. Where the Holy Grail's supposed to be.
Yeah. You can't even watch that fucking channel anymore.
I used to love watching that Monster Quest show. I think you were living here with me when it was airing. I fucking love that show. Even though it's like 99% of them were just bullshit. It was just kind of fun to be like, ooh, here's a reptilian monster with like 17 mechanical legs walking around in the swamps of Louisiana. Like, maybe not. I don't think so.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about Ancient Aliens is like that first season was really good. Like they had like really good stuff. And then after that, they just kind of were grabbing at straws, just kind of trying to figure shit out.
I mean, there's only so much shit you can talk about and just say it was aliens. Like you can't be like, well, I went to McDonald's and they messed up my order. It was aliens. God damn it, I know it. Like, sir, it's just a guy who doesn't care about his job.
Who built the Statue of Liberty? I don't know. Do you know? Could have been aliens. So they import the Nazi scientists to the United States and the Soviet Union, really fueled later on the Cold War arms race. Nuclear weapons, basically all the stuff that we have possibly could have benefited from these scientists coming over.
Hey, don't forget to thank the video game world, Phil. Because think of how many less video games there'd be if we didn't have the Cold War. Because a lot of them love to use that as like a
backdrop.
Yeah, basically like, ooh, it's so secretive and there's something secret government shit going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of movies and TV shows too.
Right.
Really a really big boost for
Call of Duty.
Entertainment.
Call of Duty, dude.
Yeah. So the second one I'm going to go into is another obvious one you mentioned. Escape to South America. Now, many high and low level Nazis and their families escaped to South America. According to History.com, who I just shit on like 5 minutes ago, Brazil took in between 1,500 and 2,000 Nazi war criminals, while between 500 and 1,000 settled in Chile. However, by far the largest number, as many as 5,000, relocated to Argentina.
So are you telling me that one village in Argentina where there's all white people with blue eyes, they're probably Nazis went there?
Well, descendants of Nazis. There
Yeah.
are actually Bavarian villages in Argentina that are full of white people, like German descendants.
I know, but it just is like, can you imagine if you're in Argentina and you're just traveling and all of a sudden it's just like a white person village with blue eyes? I would think they're like demons or something. That'd be terrifying.
It's a little weird. So Argentina stayed neutral during World War II, and Argentine President Juan Perón set up escape routes in Europe to his country, making Argentina the safe haven for Nazis and Nazi collaborators. Now, Juan Perón did this because of his leaning towards socialism and his following of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. But also, he very much wanted the same thing that the Americans and the Russians wanted, Nazi scientists. Now, he wanted Argentina to become a haven for escaping Nazis to elevate his own country's standing in the world.
Okay. That's actually, I mean, I'm not saying it's morally right, but it's very smart.
Yeah, I mean, they had, Creep It Real just did that really good. I mentioned them 2 weeks in a row, but they just did that really good Operation Paperclip one, and they were a plethora of Nazi scientists to go around.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, okay, let's see what Argentina probably has now. I'm guessing one of their scientists created Beaches Resort, maybe? You think that exists there? Or Sandals? He created the Sandals Beach Resort Empire?
it is an evil empire, so.
I've heard that. I've heard it's basically like slave fucking labor in those things.
You go there and they make you fucking serve other people drinks.
Why does my
like, oh, yeah, you get...
It's like bartender, or why does my bartender have a chain on his leg? Oh, it's just part of the history of Argentina. We want you to make you feel culturally at home here.
Come to Sandals Beach Resort. 5 days of vacation and 2 months of work. Many high-level Nazis escaped justice in South America, chief among them Dr. Joseph Mengele, nicknamed the Angel of Death for the horrific experiments he undertook and oversaw at the Nazi death camp Auschwitz. Now, Joseph Mengele escaped to Argentina in 1949 and would later move to Brazil, where he would eventually die of drowning off the coast of Brazil. And hopefully his corpse was torn apart and raped by sharks. So.
I'm guessing he was caught by a Sandals resort and then diced up into a very nice gumbo by none other than Chef Ramsay.
God damn it, he showed up again.
No, so my favorite podcast, Last Podcast on the Left, did a 3-part series about Joseph Mengele, and holy fuck, that guy was fucked up. Like, he is, like, if you listen to the second part, it goes to, like, into all what he did at Auschwitz. He basically, like, he'd watch the prisoners and then tell them which way if they're being killed or enslaved or whatever, and then he liked to experiment on twins and all of that. It's just, he's fucked. Like, he's really fucked. He's like the one that definitely shouldn't have escaped. Like, he's bad.
Yeah, there is a conspiracy that he may have been doing his experiments on twins and on children in Argentina. I believe it's him.
Ugh, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, if you're that, like, fucked up like he is, like, how are you gonna just stop that?
Yeah. Another thing that happened is the influx of Germans into Argentina, the former Nazis. They really, like, kind of took control of local governments and were almost kind of vying for power against Juan Perón and the leadership in Argentina. So, like, they almost could have set up another, like, Nazi Germany in South America.
Well, that plan kind of backfired on him.
Yeah. I think, well, a lot of them were all old too. So,
oh, gotcha.
Like, most of them didn't live much longer past the 60s. Famously, another one, the Israeli Secret Service, known as Mossad, were trying for years to capture and bring to justice escaped Nazis, and even captured Adolf Eichmann in 1960, the man who masterminded the transport of millions of Jews to concentration camps. They smuggled him back to Israel so that he could stand trial for his war crimes. This was made into many books and films, including the recent movie Operation Finale, which I actually saw and was pretty good.
Okay, I've never heard of it, but if it's in regards to that, that sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's mostly about the Mossad Secret Service agents, the team that went to Argentina and tried to capture him. So
okay, all right.
So here are some of the good ones. Escape to Antarctica.
Yeah.
Now, one of the major conspiracies that has emerged about the Nazis is that they spent years exploring the continent of Antarctica and even built a secret base in the ice of the frozen continent, building dry docks in large dugout caves for their submarines and even runways for their Luftwaffe jet-propelled fighters, bombers, and transports.
I was hoping you were going to mention this one because this is the main one that I've heard. I actually think Ancient Aliens did an episode talking about this.
Of course they did.
And yeah, they're supposed to be ride their submarines underneath Antarctica and come up in their big base there, and they're waiting. They're just planning, and then they're gonna make the Fourth Reich rise and take over the world or whatever.
Ooh, you're getting a little ahead of me.
Oh,
so the Nazis, I said, have escaped to the frozen bases, mostly to escape allies and the justice that they never served, and are biding their time and building their numbers and forces up for an eventual return to the world stage and prominent.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I feel okay.
Yeah.
Even if they did this, like, how are they making enough military forces within Antarctica to then come out and take over the world? They'd have to be making, like, fucking Transformers or some shit under there. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't see it.
Well, you got to realize Antarctica is like an untapped continent full of resources. If you can get underneath the ice and actually get, like, the metals, all of the, like, Antarctica used to be, like, much further north and much warmer. So you got to assume that they have coal, they have oil, probably all those metals. So
you're saying that they need a healthy dose of freedom up there?
Yeah, Antarctica might be getting some freedom once all the ice melts.
I remember back when I was maybe like 19, I read this book, and it was like, what was it? Like top 10 wonders or myths or something like that. And my favorite one is still one of my favorite ones, and we'll probably end up doing an episode about it sometime, is that underneath the ice in Antarctica is actually where Atlantis is. Like, a long time ago, that's where Atlantis was, and then they got frozen over during a polarity shift on Earth, and like that's where the remnants of Atlantis is.
Could be. I mean, we have no idea what's under all. So.
Well, I know Nazis have
whole...
have that weird like belief that something with aliens and the Atlanteans were real and the Aryans were real and blah 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 blah. Like they're different hierarchies of an alien race and all this shit.
Yeah, the Nazis were really looking for any kind of leg up on the competition. Yeah. So they searched the Earth for any crazy fucking supernatural shit they could find.
I know.
But they also went after a bunch of technology too. So
yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna say I don't really think they're hiding under there. Or here's the other thing: if you have a base in there, you gotta keep warm somehow. Wouldn't that eventually just melt all the ice from underneath and then it cave in on you or something?
It would. I mean, you gotta think like thermodynamics, like that. All of that ice would keep itself. So I don't really think it would like melt the ice around it. If you vented out the heat, that might keep it, keep it a little cooler too.
Well, maybe they have a base like on Empire Strikes Back and Hoth, like that base.
Yeah. If they also have tauntauns too, it'd be pretty cool.
What if they come out of there little like thousands of Nazis on tauntauns just marching into war? That'd be amazing.
They would have to have walkers too. That'd be great. So speaking of Antarctica, another version of this conspiracy says that the Nazis were exploring the continent of Antarctica, but not to set up bases for world domination and eventual retreat, but in fact to find the secret opening to the Hollow Earth, where the Nazis found and eventually escaped to following their defeat by the hands of the Allies.
I mean, that'd be a good place to hide, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I don't really want to go into a ton of because this is going to be its own fucking episode someday.
Oh yeah.
But it's really big. I mean, if you ever heard of the story of Admiral Byrd, who claims to have taken an airplane down into the Hollow Earth and met the civilizations like inside, it's pretty crazy. We have talked about it before. But. So,
do you think the Green Children of Wolf Pit, is that what it was? Are they actually SS officers?
That was a little long ago for them to be SS officers, but
maybe time runs differently inside the Earth, Phil.
Oh, it could be. They could be in the future down there. Who knows? So as the story goes, Hitler realized inside of his Berlin bunker that the war was lost. He is said to have entered an underground tunnel, supposedly, according to conspiracy, to travel to an airstrip, and entered an unmarked plane that took him and his entourage way down south, down to the South Pole.
So after the Russians stormed Berlin, Hitler was going underground to get in his plane, and then they saw a giant JetBlue airliner taking off. And they didn't think anything of it?
Yeah. If it was JetBlue, it would have crashed before.
Is that a crashing one?
JetBlue.
Is that a crashing one? I thought JetBlue is a good one.
Is JetBlue a good one? I always heard bad things about JetBlue.
Really? I always hear, obviously, Spirit, and then Sun Country, Frontier. Yep. Malaysian Malaysian Airlines is the one that crashed, I think?
Yeah, they're the ones that went lost out in the Pacific.
Yeah. Anyway, so he flew to the South Pole. Okay, so that's supposedly where he's hiding.
Into the Hollow Earth.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Him and his entourage escaped to the Hollow Earth, and they were taken in by the civilizations inside the Hollow Earth.
Okay.
Now, this goes along with other theories about Adolf Hitler's dead body, and the theory that the corpse found was actually a body double, and not that of the German Chancellor. Also, it's said that missing from Italy and Germany were 2,000 high-level Nazi scientists that the Allies couldn't find, and about 1 million Germans. Of whom it's theorized, over 1 million in this conspiracy are said to have fled Germany and Italy. And it's theorized that they escaped the consequences of the war to the hidden Hollow Earth civilizations inhabiting the Hollow Earth.
Okay. Well, if they've been hiding down there this whole time, then, maybe we should be worried.
Yeah, if it's 1 million Germans, that's quite a lot.
Can you imagine all the fucking bratwurst cooking and the sauerkraut everywhere and the Bavarian cream pies everywhere and the beer everywhere? They're just having a grand old time.
Now we know where Gordon Ramsay is between episodes.
Can you imagine a hipster being like, oh yeah, you go over to Germany for Oktoberfest? Nah, bro. You gotta go in the Hollow Earth for fucking Oktoberfest. That's where the real party is, dude.
Yeah, I've been there. You probably haven't heard of it, but I just know these things.
It's really low key. They don't like to invite you normies there.
So as I mentioned, the Nazis would have escaped to the Hollow Earth under the protection of the party living. Now, these people are thought to be Aryan-looking, and also they pilot saucer-like crafts, which would be where the Nazis got the design and technical know-how for creating Die Glocke, or the Nazi bell, which we mentioned in previous episodes.
We've talked about that bitch about 90 times now.
Yeah, it feels like it. Now, Die Glocke could be used to transport escaped Nazis through time, space, or possibly even to other dimensions.
Oh.
With Die Glocke, the Nazis could have traveled into different points in time to attempt to change the future of Germany without us ever knowing that anything had changed at all. Possibly also traveling through parallel dimensions, trying to find a new home where the Third Reich conquered the world.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah, I suppose. Isn't that kind of what's that Amazon show that I can never finish watching? Where that happens, where the Nazis win the war?
Oh, Man in the High Castle?
Yeah, Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, I've actually heard really good things about that. It's where German and Japan invaded the United States, and it sparked a Cold War between them. Yeah, I've heard it's really good.
I've heard it gets really weird, though, in later seasons. So I was just envisioning in my head, can you imagine Star Trek, but they're all Nazis on there?
They actually, if you ever watched Star Trek Enterprise, at the end of the season, it got kind of wonky. And they did go through a parallel dimension in the show, and instead of like the humans being nice to the Vulcans when they landed, the humans actually boarded the Vulcan craft, took it back to Vulcan, and took over the planet.
Oh, okay. So Picard got a little feisty, huh?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Picard. It was so the Federation was never formed. It was actually an empire. They called it the Terran Empire.
Gotcha.
As I said, the show got a little wonky. So lastly, the Nazis could have taken these crafts to the secret base on the dark side of the moon, where the Nazis would find safe haven from persecution and be able to build up their strength for an eventual invasion of Earth by the descendants of the Nazis, who would attempt to take over the Earthlings and create the next great German Empire, the Fourth Reich.
Okay, all right. So they just keep getting colder and colder. So they start out in like the theories of warm climate, South America, and then they go to Antarctica, and then the South Pole, and now the dark side of the moon. That's very cold there.
And we have no idea how warm or cold the Hollow Earth is. It does have that mini sun in the middle, so who knows?
Right. They've been lying to us about that whole core thing. So here's the real question. How did they get to the center of the Earth if the Earth is flat? Answer that one, atheist.
Yeah, it's a good question. Fucking checkmate.
Wow. Okay. Well, we don't really know what the dark side of the moon looks like, right?
No, we've taken pictures of it, but they do claim that NASA's photoshopped a lot of the pictures taken of it.
Yeah.
To get rid of the secret bases. And during the moon landings, there is a lot of speculation that the astronauts did see parked flying saucers on the moon.
Okay.
So
all
this
right.
kind of goes along with that. If you don't believe that they're alien, I guess. But
so they had flying saucers probably with like lederhosen drying on a clothing line outside. And they're like, something is fishy. Okay, then we bring back the hipster and he says, dude, I went to this really low-key place. I know you've never heard of it, but it was on the dark side of the moon. Coolest Oktoberfest ever.
It was great.
It was great. I wish
They
I could have
had-
taken you, but you know what?
They had schnitzel and fat Bavarian chicks everywhere. It was awesome. Everyone had fucking, what's that fucking haircut all the hipsters have now? That tight up top fucking haircut.
The samurai thing? The samurai
Is
bun?
that what it is? I keep seeing that shit.
Or
is
the
that,
like the Peaky Blinders haircut, or like the like Boardwalk Empire haircut where it's like shaved on the side and slicked back.
yeah, that one. That's
Yeah.
the one. The one that looks like it's every fucking Nazi movie.
Oh, Hitler Youth. The Hitler Youth
Yeah.
haircut.
The Hitler Youth haircut. That's actually, yeah, that's a better description.
They'll
So,
they'll tell you
what's
it's
that?
they'll tell you it's a fucking like 1920s haircut, but we all know what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, people used to wear this in the 1920s, but I was kind of wearing it before them, like before it was cool. So actually, this is going to be finally, of course, to top it all off, our old buddy Barry Satiro, the socialist time traveling reptilian, went back in time to smuggle the Nazis off the planet
Yep.
to, of course, his secret base on the planet Mars.
Okay, so now the Nazis are on Mars. Okay, so now we got to get Hipster back in here, and he says, guys, like, I know you guys are like, oh, cool, German Oktoberfest, but like, I went to fucking Mars, and like, it was the sweetest Oktoberfest ever. They had locally sourced avocado toast. It was amazing. Last weekend, I actually saw, like, it isn't just a myth. I actually saw it in person, avocado toast. Like, I witnessed it up close, and I didn't try it, but I will say this, it doesn't look that bad. But now, because you've made fun of it so much, I can't even try it. I'm too scared
Yeah.
to try it.
With their avocado toast, you might turn into one of them.
So yeah, I like
I
this
was gonna say he did this really quick. He did this because he was, of course, a member of the Illuminati, and that organization was started in Bavaria, known as the Bavarian Illuminati. So that would be the reasoning for it, just to top it off.
Okay. Well, could we also do this? If Barry Satiro is a reptilian shapeshifter, could he be taking them to either Saturn or Nibiru? Could he be taken the Nazis to one of those two planets and hit them?
Jesus, are we throwing Nibiru in this too? Holy shit.
Hey,
I'll have to remember that next time.
hey, you know what? We can do whatever we want. If there's Nazis on
true.
Mars, then there's Nazis. They can be anywhere.
So I want to ask you real quick, just going down all the list I mentioned, do you find any credence in any of these, or and do you have any favorites? I should ask that. Do you have any favorites of these?
Well, okay, the Argentina thing or South America thing is confirmed. Like, we know that's real and all that. But the wonky ones, you know what? I think I like the Dark Side of the Moon. That actually feels like it could be like a really good Spielberg movie. But
Yeah, there have been a ton of shitty movies made about that.
But do I
they're
really-
epically bad?
But do I really think like they actually made it there on any of these? No, not at all. The closest one could be Antarctica, but I just don't think it would be physically possible to keep living there without anybody noticing. Although I felt like I've heard recently that Russia's trying to do something like that, right?
So there's always like a group of people living in Antarctica. Like during the summer months, I guess. There are people living in Antarctica, but it's not like they live there permanently. They get swapped out.
But I'm saying
I haven't heard anything about the Russians though.
I thought I'd heard maybe it's just a wild rumor that they were looking into making like a military base in the ice in Antarctica, or like underneath it, or like something like that. I don't know. It's probably just like, propaganda, or just made up bullshit anyway. But yeah, I would give almost all of these. I'll do 1%. We'll do
1%. That's fair.
We can't do 0%, so we got to give it 1%. That's basically 0%, but we'll give it 1%. How about you, Phil? What do you think?
Well, with the exception of Paperclip and South America, which actually have been proven true, I'm gonna say I'll give everything 1% also, and I'm gonna give Antarctica 2% just because it's feasible.
Right. And
it exists.
Are we sure it exists? Is it confirmed to exist, Phil?
I don't know. I've never seen it, and I've never been there. So,
yep. Just like Pittsburgh, I've never been there, so I don't know if it's a real place or not.
I think you can kind of smell it from Minnesota, so I do think Pittsburgh exists.
Well, how come you didn't enlist on there that the Nazis fled to Pittsburgh and then became the Pittsburgh Steelers?
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
I feel like the Germans would be really smart, but I don't know if they'd be good at football. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
It's possible. I mean, they were pretty known for their athletics, too.
That's true. I don't think Mean Joe Green is a Nazi.
No.
He's like the meanest looking, biggest dude, but he's like a fucking giant teddy bear or whatever. But yeah, basically, I'm pretty sure the Nazis, outside of like stupid skinheads in the, United States or whatever, I think they're pretty much gone. Anyway, so if anybody has any more locales where the Nazis could be hiding, or if you think any of these are true, where can they contact us at, Phil?
They can hit us up on our email, subliminaldpodcast@gmail.com. Get a hold of us. We like hearing from our fans out there. Also, if you've got any stories about hipsters that you want to relay to us, just go ahead and hit us up there. Also, on Instagram, Subliminal Deception Podcast. That's actually the best way to get a hold of us. We've also have our own personal ones. I've got SD Pod Phil, which I never check and don't post to. Cody, you've got some?
Yeah, you can add my personal one at Cody's Above. You can add my other podcast at Bumblebutt Podcast on Instagram. I actually really like that hipster idea, Phil. We should, that'd be amazing if people just started telling us like hipster spotting and like what they were doing. That'd be fucking hilarious. Well, I'll tell you what, if we get enough of them or whatever, if we even get a couple, we'll read that on the air because,
oh yeah. If we get, honestly, please post pictures with it, like attach pictures. But if we even get one, I swear to God, we'll read it.
Just please don't make it up. Have it be a real sighting. So, anyway, the last thing we need you guys to do is to log on to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Doesn't matter what you say. You can type whatever you want. You can type your favorite side dish to go with your avocado toast. Doesn't matter, just as long as it's 5 stars. Even if you want to write a negative review, just make sure it's 5 stars. But anyway, Phil, I think you did an amazing job. This is going to be a really fun episode. I think people are going to have a lot of giggles, throughout this episode. And otherwise, we will.
It was a good one.
It was definitely a good one. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.